Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of the Successful Franchisee's Beautiful View. You won't want to miss a second as I have the pleasure to sit down once again with Schuyler Reidel of the Reidel Law Firm. Rocky is everything about franchising and in international and domestic U.S. Uh, he's going to reveal some disturbing trends that are going on in the franchise world that have a far-reaching effect long term and in the short term. So don't miss a second. If you want to meet Rocky, send me a message. I'll be happy to make the introduction. Leave a comment, like, share this video. Most of all, subscribe to the channel so you get all of the updates and everything that we talk about having to do with franchising. Sit back and relax for the next about 18 minutes and hear everything that Rocky has to share. Thank you all for watching this episode of the Successful Franchisee's Beautiful View. And I am more than happy to welcome back Schuyler Reidel of the Reidel Law Firm. And he focuses solely on franchise legal aspects. He is my go-to guy and the one that I send all of my clients to, whether they're franchisors or franchisees, for anything legal that has to do with franchising. So Rocky, he's joining us from the beautiful Panama, Central America. So Rocky, it's always a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. It's great to be back. It's always good to catch up. So, I mean, you and I, we could always talk for hours on franchising. So,
man, I'm right there with you too. We'll try and keep this to under 20 minutes for those
for
that get
sure.
lost.
We'll get some gold
in the video.
Definitely.
Absolutely. So Rocky, you and I were talking before I hit the record button. And what are the biggest trends that you see now with the economy and people trying to get into franchising without really doing it the right way?
Yeah. So in the last 6 months, I've seen an upward trend in franchisors who are non-compliant and non-compliant for different reasons, but ultimately unified behind they're cutting corners or they're undercapitalized and they're trying to do it as a quick fix to expand their system or their brand. The market right now is capital's a little harder to get. Rates seem stable, but banks are not giving it out like candy, like they may have in the past, right? And some parts of the country are doing better than others, right? So there is some disparity in regions and whatnot. So folks aren't growing their businesses as quickly as they maybe hoped. And a lot of times they'll look at franchising as a Hail Mary, where they can expand on someone else's dime, right? And do it kind of quick and easy. And they cut corners. And I get these FDDs when I do a franchisee review and I catch them. And I've probably caught one a month at least in the last 6 months, which is unusual. In the last 10 years I've been doing it, I would usually catch one or two a year. So I don't know if maybe my marketing's better and people who are worried maybe are reaching out to me. Maybe that might be part of it. But I think there's also something behind it that there are more franchisors choosing to cut corners and try to push the limits of non-compliance. And what's sad is that they have the confidence, and I mentioned earlier, in a sense, the shamelessness to really do this because it's very difficult to get caught. The FTC doesn't have a police force, right? They're not going to bust down doors, not yet at least, right? They're not the IRS. They don't have that many agents and whatnot. So there's limited enforcement, and franchisors or even these potential franchisors, I think, know that. And they're willing to cut the corner and take the chance and take someone's $50,000 or more and, just do a slap together document or a slap together system. So I'm seeing a lot of that. And I mentioned earlier, what's really frustrating is these non-compliant franchisors will push back and get aggressive when I point out they're not compliant. I don't say it's necessarily a deal breaker right away. I say, hey, the system's not compliant. This is what they need to do. They need to get a franchise attorney and fix it, and we can make a deal, right? And that has not come across as well as it used to with systems that maybe have done it by mistake. And they'll just flat out say, no, we don't have to disclose financials. Yes, you do. You can build into it, but you absolutely have to have financials disclosed. Yes, you have to disclose the contact information of current and former franchisees, 100%. Things like that. It's kind of crazy that they push back like that, and even registrations. They'll try to sell a registered stake that they're not, or sell an offering that they don't have a FDD for. So a master franchisee agreement, totally separate from a unit franchise. And I see they're now trying to tack that on. They're like, oh, we'll pay us an extra, $100,000. We'll make you a sub franchisor or a master franchisee. It doesn't work that way. You got to have your documents before you offer it, and you got to explain what that is. So, yeah, I've seen some bad and ugly stuff lately. So.
Well, that brings up the question: how does somebody that's doing that get caught? What are the typical paths for that to happen, and then what are the ramifications once they are caught?
Sure. So getting caught by like a regulator is different than getting caught by me, right? So I'm a private actor, right? I'm a franchisee attorney. So getting caught by me, the ramification is the deal might not proceed, right? A lot different. It's not such a big deal, and then they try to avoid anyone working with me in the future, right? Because I know I have an attention to detail. Getting caught by a regulator, very different. So there are state regulators, which are much more active currently than the FTC, but also there are federal regulators. Getting caught by a state regulator can have serious repercussions, right? Both of them can have serious repercussions. So at the state level, fines, penalties, hundreds of thousands of dollars typically, depending on how many units you may have sold or have offered, depending on the number of locations you have in that state. Most states will typically also require you to offer rescission and a refund. So if you sold 10 units in California and you were not registered in California, and California finds out, even if it's 6 or 7 years later, you better be prepared to offer a refund to all 10 of those units in California, and also to let them out of their franchise agreement without a non-compete, without anything else. They can rebrand and continue operations. They just get to exit your system for free and get a refund. And that's a refund of the initial fees and the royalties. So it's a significant penalty, severe. At the federal level, very similar, fines and penalties. It's on a per violation basis. I think it's up to 50,000, give or take, because it's based on an old number that then they just update with inflation. But the downside with federal regulators, they're not very active. In recent years, they've gone after just big scams that were very obvious. Burger I would think is the big one. The guy escaped to Israel or whatever, and was just totally a scam. They just literally scammed millions and millions of dollars and did nothing. Last year, I think they had one enforcement action on a small franchisor because they didn't have something. One of the owners of the franchise system was affiliated with, or was a franchisee maybe even, or a representative for Burger and that they didn't put that in their FTD. They didn't disclose his full CV, right? And that tripped him up, and a few other minor things, relatively minor, but that was the only action. I think it was because it was easy for the FTC and they wanted to get a win on the board. It's very rare for the FTC to take an action, and it's probably one every 2 or 3 years. So that's the repercussions of it. You could get involved in lawsuits, but those take years and it's a lot more difficult. There's not a private action based on the FTC rule or many state franchise regulations. So you as a franchisee, if you get scammed, you have to sue based on breach of contract or misrepresentation, which is very difficult. So,
right. For our franchise broker viewers, how do they even catch that up front before they send a client to you to review the FDD? How can they catch these things in the FDD? What are they looking for?
It's a good question. Be familiar with what is required of an FDD, I think, is the first step, right? Know what should be in there and just do a spot check. I usually catch this even before I do a full review. Before I even start reading, I look at the issuance date. I look to make sure the attachments are there. Sometimes they won't have an attachment, whatever, whatever. They'll just have things missing. And a real easy guide is if it's less than 100 pages, probably not compliant, or even 150 pages, that raises an eyebrow very quickly to me, because even just boilerplate, it's going to be close to 100 or more, right? And then you actually put in the real details, you're going to be pushing close to 200 typically. So, no, just knowing what's in there, kind of spot checking it, whether anything's missing or obvious. Length is a good, quick gut check. But otherwise, yeah, you don't have to read the whole thing. Just be aware of what's in there, what should be there, and see what might be omitted. Yeah.
Okay. And what positive things are you seeing in the franchise world as we speak?
Well, I'll tell you, I see more. I think more franchisees are being careful and being aware of their choices in regards to not just from a legal review, but also from a market perspective of what fits their market. In the past, and I'm sure it'll continue in the future, maybe we're in a lull, but in the past, we would see very trendy decisions by people, right? And that's just nature, right? We're all into the latest fashion or whatever. And so it would be like the gourmet hot dog or the gourmet burger, right? That was popular probably 10 years ago. So it was all these gourmet burger places. They're all different because of whatever, I don't know. And so things have been very trendy in the past. I think right now maybe we're in a lull, or maybe we haven't found that next trend necessarily. But I'm seeing a wider scope of people exploring options and looking at what is ideal for their local market, which I think is a great thing, a good thing. Um, let me think. What else would be a good trend, I guess? I think there's more. I think there's increasing professionalism probably in the industry, along is at least with good actors, with associations and consultants and even attorneys who are trying to take a stand against some of the excesses or bad actors. Because if we let the bad actors run, they're going to drag us all into regulatory hell, frankly. It's going to be regulated to oblivion, and none of us are going to be happy, and it's going to be miserable, and no one will make money. All right. So we as an industry, I think we're pushing back on that. I see a lot of good stuff happening there. Now there is some friction involved with that, but it's great that that's happening, and I think it's leading to more awareness of some of the elephants in the room in franchising, things like maybe private equity ownership or franchise sales organizations. Not that they're inherently bad, but maybe we should have a closer eye on some of them, right? Who have a tendency to stretch the limits. So things like that. I would say that's a great trend. I think that's a good one I'm seeing.
Well, thank you. You and I talked about a little bit earlier, a statistic that hits me hard, especially as a broker, because I have no way of knowing this, is that 80% of the independent brands that try and franchise this year will fail within 10 years, which
Yeah.
means that the franchisees are kind of left out on their own if they don't have
Yeah.
a backup plan for their business that invested in this franchise brand. What would be your suggestions to reduce that number even to 60% or 70%? What suggestions would you have for the independent business entering franchising to make sure that they're doing it the right way?
So before I answer, the caveat that I have, and I know you know this already, is I wouldn't be afraid of failure, because failure, you got to try, and sometimes you got to fail to win, right? And that's what I think makes America great and makes our market economy great, is we don't pick and choose winners by by popularity contests. We let the market choose. People will pay and buy what they need and what they want, and that's how people win and lose. So I'm not afraid of I wouldn't be afraid of losing, but we do want to help people understand and make the right choices. So I think education and having more information and in making informed decisions can help people decide their path right. I don't think we necessarily need to protect people from failure, but we need to give them the tools, give them the knowledge to make an informed decision so they live the life they want, right? And maybe the life they want is to give that try, and maybe they fail, and that's okay. And they learn the lesson, and we'll move on and do something even better later, right? But we want to make sure that people aren't tricked into things or misled or lied to, or there's bad actors that are taking advantage of people. And I think the way to do that is education. I think potentially you're a proponent of certifications or some industry recognition. I think that works to some extent, and it can be done well. And I think it is done well right now, currently. But maybe it's still not as broadly recognized or broadly regulated, in a sense, industry sense, not a government sense. But I think even beyond that, even if we didn't have those or if they were lacking, just having more information out there, doing videos like you're doing, and writing books like you're doing, and the stuff that I do, trying to make people aware of how to get reviews done well, and the things they should be asking or thinking about, all of that helps raise the boat, right? Helps raise everyone's level of competence and confidence in the system, and in franchising. So I think all of that taken together is necessary, certainly.
Outstanding. Thank you, Rocky. As we wrap up, what else would you like to bring to the attention of our audience today?
Well, one thing. Also, I'll mention one thing that came up recently, last couple of weeks. More people, and I'm curious if you've seen this. More of prospective franchisees are relying on pure AI to read their documents or read their FA and tell them what's in there and read their FTD. Have you come across that? It's interesting. I've already had people decline to hire me because they think ChatGPT is going to help them make a decision, right? So
Maybe it's the folks I'm marketing to. I market to higher level executives
sure,
in big companies.
more
So
sophisticated.
they're more sophisticated, number one, and number two, they're not the younger generation that is growing up on AI.
Sure,
This
yeah,
generation may have seen computers back in college days, but they didn't grow
yeah,
up with a phone in their hand. So that
yeah.
wasn't their first go-to. So I haven't heard that. That kind of scares me that you're seeing that.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting. Now, it is what it is, right? I'm not, if that's what the market wants, that's what the market wants, right? I'm not worried about it. But the thing is, the people who ask me about it or end up declining to hire me because they want to do AI or use AI, they don't even know what they're asking. They don't know what tool they're using the right way. So it's like, man, I don't know. I don't go into a whole, soliloquy about AI and what it is and whatnot. I'm just like, okay, yeah, if that works for you, that's fine. But frankly, they don't understand what ChatGPT is and how to get the right outputs. Now, AI is a wonderful tool, but you have to know how to use it. And frankly, we're at a point now where you still have to be smarter than the AI to be able to get the right outputs, right? To be able to craft it, the inputs, and to program it the right way to get your output just right. Um, and so, it is what it is. I can't change it, but I've seen that lately, and I kind of just shake my head. I know they're going to be back because when they get into a system they're not happy with, they're going to have to exit. ChatGPT won't be able to help them exit, not yet at
Right.
least. So they're going to need an attorney. But I don't know. I've seen that lately. That kind of, I think that's not a positive trend. I was curious if you had seen it, but it popped up on my radar the last couple of weeks. I had two folks tell me that AI could do the same thing I'm doing. So, and not hire me, which is fine, but I wish them all the best. That's all I can
Yeah.
say.
Yeah. That would be my last words of advice for them is all the best to you. The pendulum swings with any new technology.
Sure.
People either on the one hand of the spectrum, folks completely shun it and don't advance with it, don't learn
Yep.
from it and
Yep.
how they can use it correctly. And then on the other hand of the spectrum, you have people that completely embrace it and do so blindly, thinking that it's the easy way out. I mean, it
Yeah,
still
exactly.
takes effort. It still takes a
Yes.
lot of effort, whether you're a new franchisor or an existing franchisor or a franchisee. It's still what the human, it's what sweat equity you want to put into it is the success that you're
100%.
going to see.
100%. And I'll say that I use AI in my law firm. I don't use ChatGPT, but we use specific legal models. And I've spent hundreds and hundreds of hours training them and testing them and putting in franchise agreements and FDDs and asking it the right questions and getting out the right responses. So it can be a great tool in the hands of someone who knows how to get the right outputs. And the problem is, I think potential franchisees, they don't know what they don't know. Right. And you give them that tool and they're still not going to be able to wield it effectively, unfortunately. But yeah, I agree. So it's interesting. I just thought I'd ask you. That's
Yeah,
been
no,
a
I
kind of an interesting
appreciate that.
topic.
And full disclosure, I use AI to help me write because
Sure. Yeah.
it's fantastic for transitioning. It's great for fillers.
Yes.
It's excellent to connect different ideas that I'd stew about for a week or
Oh,
two
sure.
weeks trying to figure it out. Um, but I
But you're
go
still the
through
genesis of those ideas.
absolutely, and once AI spits something back out at me, I rewrite every sentence
Sure. Yeah.
to make sure that it's my words,
Yeah.
not the
Make sure it
AI.
flows right and it's your tone, right? It's your presence. So
Yeah.
yeah, I agree. Same thing. It's a wonderful tool, but the genesis of those ideas and really the intelligence part of it still comes from humans. But it's a tool to be able to help us process that information very effectively and communicate those ideas very effectively to other humans. So, yeah,
Rocky, as always, outstanding conversation. Thank you very much for joining us today.
definitely, definitely. Thank you. I'm sure I'll see you again soon.
And thank you all for watching this episode of the Successful Franchisee's Beautiful View. Stay safe and win every day.